Hi, I'm Steve Gobert, Global Sales Enablement Lead for GE Healthcare Digital. Thank you for joining this session at the Sales Enablement Festival. Before I get started with the content and some tips to help you with your sales enablement journey, just wanted to give you a little bit of background on why I have a lot of great information to share. So I like to tell my career journey in three phases. First, I majored in finance, worked for an insurance company, and I worked to make money. In phase two, I really honed in on trying to be successful, and I had the opportunity to work with Kraft Foods, learn instructional design, and then eventually get into sales training at Walgreens for their B2B workforce. In phase three, the phase that I'm in today, I'm doing exactly what I enjoy, which is sales enablement. So when I got the opportunity to help support the digital arm of GE Healthcare, this role is exactly where I wanted to be. And I'm going to share a lot of great tips and advice that I learned in my journey in this session. So let's begin. So the title of this course is Making Learning Bite-Sized and Deployable for Sales. I've written out 4 objectives that'll get us to that point. So what I'm going to do is define considerations when onboarding versus developing sales professionals. So we'll look at ongoing training versus onboarding. Then I'm going to describe to you how to make learning manageable and modular. So again, we want to break it down and make it bite-sized. Then I'll demonstrate how to deploy sales training globally and what to consider to make training more palatable for everyone. And then lastly, I'll describe strategies to assess and reinforce sales training. So let's dive right in. So onboarding versus ongoing development, what's in it for me? I've written out some tips for onboarding and ongoing development here, and really quickly, in regard to onboarding, you really need to set expectations up front and develop a 60-day roadmap. Now, this can be variable, it could be 30 days or 90 days, but there needs to be a clear agenda, and then you're going to have to end with some type of assessment or certification program. So if you're just starting out, develop some type of simple assessment that your new salespeople can go through so you can check to make sure that they understand the items that they learned in the onboarding program. And then it also helps you track who's gone through it, and you can show HR who has completed it and who has not. Now, as you get more sophisticated, definitely develop a certification program. This can encompass doing role play scenarios where they talk back exactly what they're supposed to learn. You can record those, show them to sales leadership, have some kind of criteria, and then, like I say, if you have a learning management system, you can put that into a certification program. Now, I know we're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's really not possible to do week-long meetings, but even if we weren't, I would not suggest having your people sit in chairs for 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. Nobody likes that, and nobody can learn as much as you expect them to learn in a short period of time. So my advice is to break it out week by week. Set the expectation that they learn for a couple hours or 4 hours or wherever it is, go out and meet some people, and then practice scenarios. I gave you a couple tips, what to avoid. So death by webinar, please avoid that. Now, in regard to ongoing development, a sales professional really should have the expectation that they're always going to be learning. As an adult, we have certain preferences of the way we want to learn, so I would Google adult learning theories and kind of incorporate that into your ongoing development. And then as far as tips, as far as your program is concerned, definitely partner with marketing and sales leadership to have a strategy. Set expectations with sales leadership that there is going to be a regular training opportunity. Maybe that's once a month, maybe that's quarterly, but you want to flex that muscle at a regular interval so people are really engaged and on top of what's new. And then lastly, make training accessible. Coming out of training, the learner will only retain it if they keep it in their mind and utilize it. And if they can't utilize it, then you have to have ways to reinforce that by making training repeatable and accessible. So look at a sales enablement platform or a website or whatever it is, a mobile app that gives your learners, your sales professionals, quick tips in just-in-time fashion. I also included here to incorporate feedback and social component. You want to reward people for giving you best practices from the field because people love to learn from their peers. So there's no better or more authentic way to have good examples than to extract that from field sales professionals. And one way to get that is to reward them for doing that. Now, a couple things to avoid. Don't pile on too much training in any particular time. Like I said, you can only learn so much. If you space it out and make it more regular, then we know what to expect. And then I put death by webinar. Please, avoid the webinars that go over an hour. For a lot of different reasons, nobody wants to sit in a webinar for more than 60 minutes. So with that, let's go on to the next topic. Breaking down learning into manageable pieces. This is where my instructional design background really is going to come out. In my experience, it is best to break content into modules that you can shift around and apply or not apply for your audience. Why this is effective for a sales audience is that we're always in constant change. And furthermore, as I talk about the global piece of it, there are some pieces of your content in your learning program that may not be applicable to the whole globe or the region that you're going to try to reach. So I put some tips in here. One of the main things that I find missing in sales training is we are not writing out learning objectives, or we're not beginning with the end in mind, and we're not focused on the outcome. If you develop training and you cannot clearly define what a learner is going to get out of that training, then maybe you shouldn't proceed forward with the training, and you should make it a communication. Now, I suggest that you Google Bloom's taxonomy verbs. This will give you a list of verbs to write your learning objectives and break them down into pieces. Now, you see an example that I just recently put together for a learning program at GE Healthcare Digital, and it starts with a verb: define, describe, recognize, demonstrate, relate. Those are real learning objectives. So consider taking the time to at least write that up front. It'll help you break your content into manageable pieces. And then it will also help your audience and those that have to approve the training understand whether or not this training is applicable. So I give you some tips here on this slide. The last piece here in regard to breaking down learning into modules is tell a story. Now, I told you my career story in 3 phases. In regard to learning, you should start the beginning as a simple definitional or terminology type of module where you're laying down the foundation of exactly what it is that you need to understand before you can get more sophisticated. In the middle, you want to tell a situation or show a solution or have an example of where your learning content is applicable in the field. And then you want to end with outcomes and then any updates on if it's a product or a market type of theory in that piece. So consider telling a story and your learners will be more engaged. Let's talk about the next topic. Deploying sales training globally. The first 2 sections of this video have really prepared you for this section, and it's all about having perspective. Now, if you don't deploy training outside of the United States or outside of the country that you're in, you still may get something out of this. So every region has different laws, different ways of understanding content. There's different cultures, what have you. When you create your content in modules and make it such that it's simple to break apart, then you can take your training and make it tailored for the region that you're going to deploy in. So another tip that I have for you is nowadays there are really easy ways to get transcripts from video. So if you have a subject matter expert record a video, you can take that video, pop it into a certain software. It could even be YouTube. I know YouTube does this. It will pull out the transcripts of the spoken word. Now you can take that transcript and give it to your regional partner, and if they want to translate it into a different language, then it makes it easy for them to do that. So keep that in mind. The other thing is really having a strong regional partner so that you can effectively communicate the learning objectives, the point of the program, and how to deliver it. Because I'm sure I know I don't do this. I can't deliver the training all throughout the world. I rely on my regional partners to deliver the training. I really administer it and help develop it. And then communicate, remind, and reward. I love that. You know, with salespeople, they say you got to tell them 7 times before it'll sink in. And with your regional partners, if you're in a global role, you have to do the same thing. You have to regularly check in with your partners. You got to communicate before, during, and after training sessions so that they know exactly what to drive when you're trying to deploy a program. And then, I'm fortunate. I do have the access to a nimble LMS system. And what do I mean by that? The LMS that we're using is mobile friendly. And what I've discovered outside of the US, there are many more countries using mobile devices than we are. So if you can take content, develop it in such a way that it's mobile friendly, I know a lot of my regional global partners appreciate being able to view content and deploy it on a mobile device. Track and record your completions. Again, it's something that at the end of the day, certain regions have different audit requirements, and certainly it's something to consider. Let's talk about the last topic. Learn, assess, retain, and repeat. I'm going to wrap up this discussion with some tips in regard to helping your salespeople retain that information and then utilize it at the right time. Now, I'm not going to go into a long discussion about assessments and the design of them. Quite simplistically, when you create an assessment, it does a couple things. One, it makes sure that your learners are engaged. And 2, it measures that they have understood the content. Now, when you're writing assessment questions, make sure that it is reinforcing the main points that you're driving in your learning. Don't create trick questions or questions that have no relevancy to what you're trying to drive through with the learning program, but plan to use it for webinars, in-class training, and your e-learning programs. Communicate. Come up with a communication plan for all your trainings. I definitely, even if there isn't a training session going on or anything going on, I still have a communication to help people understand what resources are available to them so they can find the content that they're looking for. Now, I'm going to wrap up with the most important point here. Because you are modularizing your content, you're breaking it down into chunks, it should be easier for you to take the main points and the main references and pull it out of your training and put it into one pagers and PDFs and quick videos so that your salespeople can access that content 24/7. Now, I have the ability to post content on a sales enablement platform. Again, if you're not familiar with that, Google it. It's a great way to organize just-in-time content for people to use at the right time. So if you understand a sales stage, you can give them the right information, the right talking points, and the right materials for them to use at the right stage of a sale, the customer journey, what have you, whatever terminology you use. At the end of the day, if salespeople cannot access the right information for them to use at the right time, they're going to do their own thing. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but it doesn't help your organization measure the effectiveness of your sales training program and your, not meeting the goals of your organization. So whatever you can to make your content easy to find, it's organized, and it drives home main points for salespeople to use at the right time. Mission accomplished, and that's what I would call just in time. So let's wrap up. So life is a journey. This is a picture of my daughter Zoe. She is a hard worker. She knows what she wants, and she is an inspiration to me. Hopefully, I've given you some inspiring points here in this presentation to take back to your program and develop it for your sales teams. So to wrap up, a great sales and enablement program is a journey. Develop a sales enablement charter to help people understand what you do, and they will partner with you in an effective way. Set attainable goals and knock them out one by one. I've been in my role for 2 years, and everything was needed yesterday, but I focused on knocking things out one by one. Write out strong learning objectives. Google Bloom's taxonomy verbs and incorporate them into your objectives. And then make your learning modules short and modularized so that you can use them or not use them for the audience that you're training. Incorporate good learning, adult learning theory into your learning design. So some of us like to learn visually, some of us just like to read text, some of us like to touch and do. So consider that for your audience. And then make sales training easy to access and repeatable. So this is what I was talking about, just in time, so that your salespeople have the right information at the right time for the right audience. And then celebrate training contributions and feedback from the field. People like to learn from their peers. I would like to thank the Sales Enablement Collective for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. And if you want to connect with me, go ahead and click the link to LinkedIn. And I enjoy hearing from you. Have a great day.